Joe Biden's approval numbers hit an all-time low as Americans are told to just lower your expectations. Hey guys, my name is Jason Wesley and this is not a podcast. With chants across America of "Let's go Brandon," according to a new poll, Biden's approval plummets to 37% in a new Quinnipiac poll. A new Quinnipiac poll dropped on Tuesday, October 19th, and it's a doozy for President Joe Biden, whose approval rating just keeps reaching new lows. According to the poll, which surveyed 1,342 adults nationwide between October 15th and 18th, Biden's approval has dropped to 37%, despite the fact that only 23% of respondents were Republicans. The poll was a D+4. Only 38% of those surveyed said they have a favorable impression of the president. That's less than Trump's 39% favorable rating in the same poll, despite the sample group leaning blue. When asked, do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling his job as president, a total of 51% of respondents disapprove somewhat or disapprove strongly. That ties in almost exactly with the 538 poll, which combines data of all polls, accounting for each poll's quality, recency, sample size, and partisan lean, which has Biden's disapproval rating having a steady climb to now over 50% from 36% on his first day as president. Forbes, Biden's falling approval ratings are bad news for the municipal market. Battered on trust, doubted on leadership, and challenged on overall competency, President Biden is being hammered on all sides as his approval rating continues its downward slide to a number not seen since the tough scrutiny of the Trump administration, said the Quinnipiac University polling analyst Tim Malloy. This administration is consistently trying to push an agenda and think the American people are too stupid to notice. Do you remember back in 2018 when President Trump nominated the first African-American woman for promotion to general in the U.S. Marine Corps? Probably not, because the mainstream media really didn't cover it. Colonel Lorna Maylock will be promoted to the rank of Brigadier General if confirmed, the U.S. Department of Defense announced on Tuesday. Well, the Biden administration has now sworn in Richard Levine as U.S.'s first openly transgender four-star officer. So Rachel, the artist formerly known as Richard, didn't do anything but be transgender and now has been elevated to the assistant HHS secretary and now commissioned as a four-star admiral despite never serving in the military in any capacity.
Okay, I have been made aware of the allegations. Is there anything you can say on your behalf?
I'm trans?
You just won HR.
The bar is set really low in this juicy smoothie administration. When you don't have something, you just create something and call it historic to appeal to your radical base. Now, many of you probably don't even know or remember who he is. Rachel was recently confirmed by the Senate as the first out transgender federal official as assistant HHS secretary. Now, if you watched episode 23 of Not a Podcast called Men, Women, and Transgender, you saw a clip of Rand Paul questioning Rachel on her support of genital mutilation of minors.
Genital mutilation is considered particularly egregious because, as the WHO notes, it is nearly always carried out on minors and is a violation of the rights of children. American culture is now normalizing the idea that minors can be given hormones to prevent their biological development of their secondary sexual characteristics. Dr. Levine, you have supported both allowing minors to be given hormone blockers to prevent them from going through puberty, as well as surgical destruction of a minor's genitalia. Like surgical mutilation, hormonal interruption of puberty can permanently alter and prevent secondary sexual characteristics. Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life.
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question. The question is a very specific one. Should minors be making these momentous decisions? For most of the history of medicine, we wouldn't let you have a cut sewn up in the ER, but you're willing to let a minor take things that prevent their puberty, and you think they get that back? You give a woman testosterone enough that she grows a beard, do you think she's going to go back looking like a woman when you stop the testosterone? You have permanently changed them. Infertility is another problem. None of these drugs have been approved for this. They're all being used off-label. I find it ironic that the left that went nuts over hydroxychloroquine being used possibly for COVID are not alarmed that these hormones are being used off-label.
Now here's Dr. Levine advocating for sex change operations for children.
So what if you're going through the wrong puberty? What if you're a transgender young woman, meaning male to female, and now you're getting, your voice is dropping, you're getting bigger, you're getting hair everywhere, and you're growing those tentacles, And what if you're a transgender young man and now you have breast development in periods? It can be terrifying. There's a lot of mental health issues during that time. So the protocol, which developed in the Netherlands, has two phases. The first phase, at the young adolescent age, is to give what are called a pubertal blocker, to give a medicine to block the progression of puberty so you don't go through the wrong puberty. You block puberty, and then you can, with the appropriate time, send them through the puberty consistent with their gender identity. Does that make sense?
Well, now she's been promoted to 4-star Admiral. Oh wait, how long has she served in the military? 2021 to present day. And so Rachel Levine's uniform didn't just look bare, she was given 4 ribbons. That's cute. And I never even came close to Admiral. She then tweeted, "I am deeply honored and grateful to join the ranks of men and women across this great nation who have committed to defend the United States against small and large threats, known and unknown. I promise to uphold that trust to the fullest extent of my abilities." I noticed there was a word left out of your tweet, but don't worry, I fixed it for you. "I am deeply honored and grateful to join the ranks of men and women across this great nation who have committed to defend the United States Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic." Now CBS ran with this headline: Dr. Rachel Levine makes history as the nation's first openly transgender 4-star Admiral. How amazing it must be to join the military and then just start at the top, never having to actually put yourself in harm's way defending freedom and liberty. This man that believes he's a woman now outranks the black woman born in Kingston, Jamaica, General Lorna Maylock. Here's what Biden promoted, and here's what Trump promoted. Now, another reason for the low poll numbers are due to the dismissive nature of this administration in relation to inflation, thinking that it's a high-class problem. Jake Tapper questioned Jen Psaki on this last week.
An economist who had said in part most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, et cetera, are high-class problems. Now, I get the larger point that when we're talking about economics, we're coming out of a recession. But doesn't it seem tone-deaf to say that rising prices and empty grocery store shelves are high-class problems? Isn't that a bit dismissive?
Well, that's not exactly what the tweet said, nor the retweet of the original tweet, which is what we're talking about here. Now, more people have jobs, more people are buying goods. That's increasing the demand. That's a good thing. At the same time, we also know that the supply is low because we're coming out of the pandemic. And because a bunch of manufacturing sectors across the world have shut down, because ports haven't been functioning as they should be. These are all things we're working through.
Well, Chief of Staff Ron Klain, back when he was a private citizen in 2018 on Twitter, he went after the Trump White House for efforts to dismiss rising prices. Klain asked if Vice President Pence would do what then Commerce Secretary Ross did and, quote, hold up a Campbell's soup can and argue that price increases for basic food items really don't hurt the middle class, unquote. There are a lot of people out there who might say, well, why did Ron Klain think that rising prices was a serious concern under Trump but not under Biden?
She said the ports haven't been functioning as they should be. Well, you can say that again.
We've all seen that colossal buildup of container ships off the coast of Los Angeles, and it just keeps getting worse. A record 100 ships are now waiting to unload desperately needed supplies. As for the White House promise to operate the ports 24/7, the manager here says it's not even close to happening.
You can't just turn it on like a switch. You have to shift manpower. I don't think there's enough labor at the ports right now, qualified longshoremen, to cover 3 shifts.
Another problem? hundreds of empty shipping containers.
Psaki was asked about why the president delayed action on this issue, and she makes a joke about it.
That the supply chains across the world have been disrupted, even as the sort of work to fight back against COVID proceeded. It was crystal clear that things were not improving on the supply chain. People couldn't get dishwashers and furniture and treadmills delivered on time, not to mention all sorts of other things. So why is
the tragedy of the treadmill that's delayed?
Right, probably. But the serious point is, why didn't the president act sooner in a more aggressive way? I know there was a task force announced or something.
Seems rather dismissive, kind of like when she was asked about the Build Back Better plan and how it won't cost Americans a dime, and she just repeats the same lie.
Still believe that Build Back Better will not add a dime to the national debt?
Correct, it won't.
Why should Americans believe that?
Because it won't. Go ahead.
Babe, you've cheated on me before. Why should I believe that you won't do it again? Because I won't. But how can I trust that you won't? Because I won't. Oh, okay, well, you convinced me. But where has the Secretary of Transportation been? Apparently he's been on paternity leave for the last 2 months and no one even knew it. NBC ran this headline: attacks on Pete Buttigieg for paternity leave are homophobic, misogynist, and bad for business. By taking time off as Transportation Secretary to welcome his new children, Buttigieg is still serving the public good by normalizing paternity leave. Because everything is racist, sexist, homophobic, misogynist, etc., etc. I thought you didn't support the patriarchy, but I'm sure after this adoption, his body's going through some serious physical changes and healing, just like a natural-born woman's does. If you saw episode 2 of Not a Podcast, you saw the many warnings of why nominating Pete Buttigieg as Transportation Secretary was a bad idea. He went on to defend his absence.
When somebody welcomes a new child into their family and goes on leave to take care of that child, that's not a vacation, it's work. It's joyful, wonderful, fulfilling work, but it is work, and it's time that our nation join pretty much every other country in the world and recognize that.
Jen Psaki also defended his absence during this crisis, very condescendingly in my opinion.
That you outlined, wouldn't it be wise for the secretary to get back on the bicycle, so to speak, and come back to work? A new poll found that 65% of voters think that given what's going on, he should come back to work.
He's at work.
He's on paternity leave.
I was on a conference call with him this morning.
Jake Tapper even questioned Pete about his absence.
Looking back as a cabinet secretary, why didn't you or the Department of Transportation make an official announcement when you went on parental leave, and why did you not appoint an acting secretary while you were away?
Well, so the way this works is there is a deputy secretary, Polly Trottenberg, who's doing phenomenal work and who, as deputy secretaries do, can fill in when a secretary is not available.
I'm old enough to remember back in February of this year when Senator Ted Cruz took his family to Mexico when Texas was hit with freezing temperatures, and citizens left, right, and center were upset at him for leaving during a crisis.
Your question, what was I thinking? I was trying to take care of my family. I was trying to take care of my kids. But at the same time, you're right. As a leader, you need to be here.
But I guess what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander. It's not the fault of anyone in the Biden administration, though. It's your fault. Your expectations are too high. This administration doesn't want to go back to normal. They want to create a new normal. Empty shelves are the new normal. That reminds me of Cuba or Venezuela. You even have contributors to the Washington Post, like Michelle Maynard, writing op-ed pieces titled, "Don't Rant About Short-Staffed Stores and Supply Chain Woes." The other day, I found myself carrying home a loaf of bread in my bare hands because the bakery had run out of bags. Back when we didn't know how good we had it, circa 2019, I might have been annoyed by the inconvenience. Now I was just glad the bakery was still in business. Just get used to it. The new normal is inflation, and apparently spending $3.5 trillion doesn't cost anyone a dime.
We talk about price tags. It is zero price tag on the debt.
The new normal are Americans wearing masks forever.
What does normal mean? Do you think Americans will still be wearing masks, for example, in 2022?
I think it is possible that that's the case. And again, it really depends on what you mean by normality.
Right.
The new normal is open borders.
And there is currently a massive caravan trying to do exactly that. Take a look at this wild video out of Tapachula, Mexico this morning, where you can see thousands of migrants in a brand new caravan literally just forcing their way through a Mexican roadblock with Mexican National Guard and security forces. They literally, just like a hot knife through butter, just push right through those soldiers and those police forces. And it wasn't much of a roadblock at all. Thousands of those migrants able to just run right through it and continue on with their march. Again, this is a brand brand new caravan heading towards the United States as we speak. Take a look at the second piece of video showing when the caravan first started marching earlier this morning. Again, this is Tapachula, Mexico, which is in the southeastern part of Mexico. Thousands of them being led by an activist who essentially says that the Biden administration's policies are kind of like a cattle call to these migrants, enticing them to come to the border. So they are starting their march. They're going to do so. They had banners that said Joe Biden for all. This is DHS sources have been telling Fox News all week. You can expect tens of thousands of migrants to start showing up at the border here, within the next week or so.
The new normal is China firing hypersonic missiles. China fires hypersonic missile that circles globe before striking target. The new normal is Superman not fighting for truth, justice, and the American way anymore. American way dropped from Superman's updated motto. Now, I could go on and on, but I'm just going to leave you with this.
Has President Biden ever been to the southern border?
In his life? Yes. I will have to look back in my history books and check the times he's been to the southern border.
We have been looking all morning and we cannot find any record.
Do you have plans to visit the southern border?
I've been there before, and I haven't. I mean, I know it well. I guess I should go down, but the whole point of it is I haven't had a whole hell of a lot of time to get down.
You may have seen there's been reporting that he did drive through the border when he was on the campaign trail in 2008. He does not need a visit to the border to know what a mess was left by the last administration. That's his view.
Does that count as a visit? He said, I've been there before. You're saying he drove by for a few minutes. Does that count?
What is the root cause? Where are people coming from who are coming to the border, Peter?
The president said that
I'm asking you a question because I think people should understand the context.
No,
where do people
I'm asking you if that
Okay, I'll answer it for you.
But he said,
that may be a difference he has with Republicans.
But that's not what he said either. He said, I guess I should go down. So does he think that he needs a photo op? Is that what he's saying?
He doesn't. And that's a fundamental disagreement he has. I would say the former president went to the border at least once, maybe more. You may know the numbers. How did that immigration policy result, Peter? That immigration policy resulted in separating kids from their parents, building a border wall that's feckless and that costs billions of dollars for taxpayers. The president fundamentally disagrees on how we need to approach the immigration issue.
What am I doing here?